We are back on Morning Line. Nick Barris here. It's Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. Professor John Weil is with us from MTSU talking about the hearings going on January 6th hearing. We should say, by the way, there was a hearing scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I think, Rick, you said it's been postponed for whatever reason. They'll probably explain why until next Thursday. Excuse me. So not another hearing until next Thursday morning. It's been pushed back. May have something to do with some of the witnesses or more of the preparation. I think all told we'll probably have, Professor, another 3 to 4 more hearings before they wrap things up. And we got a caller waited through the break. We'll go to Ricky. Ricky, good morning. Hi, Ricky.
Morning, Nick.
Hey, what's on your mind?
I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
The $250 million that Trump put in his pocket, and you know where it went. When they actually, at the end of this, are they going to make this man pay this money back, or are they going to give it to him? Because they wouldn't give it to me. And the numbers. The other one is when all these hearings is over, is there any way that they can put Trump in the big house since he was the president at the time he done all this? Or he's going to get to go scot-free? Because you know, and I know, and everybody that's listening knows that he's the one that done all this insurrection.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, he's no longer president, so he doesn't have that kind of protection. Maybe you can hit on the 2 points. The first, ultimately, can that money ever be paid back that was willingly given, though the givers were misled? And 2, you said potentially, and they're still looking at it, the former president could be indicted criminally. What do you think on those 2 counts, Professor?
Well, I mean, I think there are legal mechanisms if money is diverted for purposes other than what it was spent, that it can be taken back. I don't think that the money, by and large, was put in Trump's pocket, but certainly it seems like he's used his discretion to decide where he wants it to go and to whom he wants it to go. In terms of whether Trump could be indicted, well, I mean, clearly he could be I think he can be indicted of a criminal offense once he's out of office, but that, of course, will not. In fact, you may have noticed yesterday there was sort of a division within the hearing. The committee chair said, we're not going to be making a recommendation to the Justice Department one way or the other. And Liz Cheney said, hold on a minute, as did at least Schiff, I think it was, at least one other said, we really haven't come to that decision yet. So Merrick Garland, who of course is the Attorney General, did indicate yesterday that he and his people were watching the hearings very closely and probably trying to see if there's some evidence that the committee has gathered that they have not. So I think that's an open question. But I will say, if it went to a jury, I think it would be very difficult to get 12 men and women who did not have predilection for or against Donald Trump one way or the other. I think it could be a very, the voir dire could take months trying to get people. And then, if you got someone who didn't have an opinion about Trump one way or the other, would they be competent to serve on a jury?
Right. It's been such a big story on that. I do wonder, I've heard some claim that maybe the folks who gave money could put together a class action suit to try to get them. But here's my take on this. I think if we had, and I don't know, maybe we have some viewers who did give to the president, I venture to guess that most of them who gave aren't complaining now. They're okay with it. That's my guess. I think most of them said, hey, we gave, I thought it would go for that, but if he thinks there's something better. I mean, I think if you gave to the former president in the aftermath of this, you are a true believer. And I would be very surprised if any of them are upset that, it was revealed yesterday that a lot of that money did not go to the legal battle, and it went instead to his hotels and other things. That's just me. Yeah. I don't think they're going to care. I don't think they care. I think, I gave him money, he can do whatever he wants with it.
On the other hand, it wouldn't take that, of the hundreds of thousands apparently who gave, wouldn't take that many to start a class action.
Well, that's true. That's true. It's just my point is, it's to the point where there's folks out there that are so supportive. The president himself said, during his campaign, remember, he could shoot someone in the road.
Yes, he did.
And they'd still, and you know what? He's not wrong. That's awful. That's awful, but he's not wrong. Hey, I'm just curious, we talk about Liz Cheney, who's one of the 2 Republicans on this committee. Mm-hmm. And it's just, Liz Cheney, we all know who her father is. What is her her reelection campaign going to look like? I mean, clearly she's got a strong stand. She's a Republican, no question. Her father's Dick Cheney. She bleeds Republican, but she's definitely no Trump supporter. What's your take on her prospects?
Well, right now the polls indicate that she's behind, and you know, part of the problem, surely people probably better than me because I wasn't in the state at the time, but may remember Al Gore Sr.
Yeah.
You know, he was very prominent opponent of the Vietnam War, but the perception, and I don't know what Tennessee's, you know, how they would have come down on that as a state, but the perception in Tennessee was that he cared more about what was happening in Vietnam than he cared about in Tennessee. And that may not have been fair, but I think Cheney has the same possibility here that, you know, well, it's nice that you're taking care of Donald Trump, but people in Wyoming, you know, we're more concerned about ranching or oil or, you know, whatever the conservative issues might be there. The irony, of course, is that Cheney is far more conservative politically than Donald Trump is. She's one of the most conservative people in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Right. Because, so is this calculated on her part? I mean, that she's chosen to go this route, and I'm wondering if she's just thinking, look, and if it's true of any politician, I'll say this, any politician who knows what they feel is truly right and goes that route even though they feel it will hurt them politically, first, is very rare. That's rare.
Yes.
And so I respect that, Democrat or Republican. Is that calculated on her part, and she's thinking, to heck with it? Look, I see what happened here. It disgusts me, and I'm going to do this, and whether I get reelected or not, I know I'm doing what I feel is the right thing.
You know, I mean, there's two ways to read it. One is that she really believes that this is going to so blow the lid off that anybody who supported Trump, you know, that they won't have a candidate, even like Pence, who, you know, didn't support him on the election but was with him all the way, that the party's going to lurch the other direction and she's going to get it. Or it may just be, you know, she's read John Kennedy's Profiles in Courage and decided that, you know, the way she wants to be remembered by history is not serving forever in the House of Representatives, but being not quite the lone voice, but one of the few lone voices who stood up and said, this is wrong, even if it had happened in, you know, a member of her own party.
As far as Mike Pence, let's just touch on that. I mean, you don't see as much. Can you tell me, what is he doing of late? I did see that he gave some sound a couple of days ago when the hearing started, just reaffirming that he felt he acted appropriately in doing what he did with regard to the election and not overturning it based on the president's request. So what is his status? And as you said, you think he'll run for president?
I think he's already begun running. I mean, I don't know that he's formally announced, but I think he's going to Iowa and New Hampshire. You know, it's sort of tragic, really. One could say, if you think you should have been able to see this all along, you can say you made a pact with the devil, and it came back and bit you. You know, ultimately, I think Pence did the right thing. When it came to playing by the rules of the game, he played by the rules of the game. But there was almost no distance between Pence and Trump on, you know, political issues during the 4 years that they were there together.
Yeah.
You know, you disagree with Trump, you move from, you know, one of the predestined to one of the damned, essentially.
Yeah. It's so interesting, and really, I do think about the relationship, and I'll say this for Pence, too. In his time with Trump, he was a loyal servant. I mean, he was there, and he didn't say boo and all this. And then, of course, we hear that more or less the president didn't say much when they were talking about stringing Pence up that day. And I just can't imagine. They were close. He was his vice president, and now, I mean, I'm imagining certainly there's no love lost on either side. It's just bizarre. I can't think of a former president and vice president that have a relationship quite like theirs.
No, you know that the relationship itself, when you think about, you know, president and vice president, there are not too many vice presidents who particularly want their president to live forever.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, this is an odd one for sure.
Well, listen, great conversation. Appreciate you coming on. Listen, they'll have another hearing next Thursday, and maybe we'll have you on again to talk a bit about that as we just navigate all through this, and we'll see how it all plays out when it wraps up. Professor, it's great seeing you. You take care of yourself.
We'll see you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll take a break and be back with a programming note about tomorrow right after this. Stay with us.